Hong Kong stocks rose 7% on Friday, with tech and consumer cyclical stocks driving the surge. That's amid China reopening rumors and a report that U.S. inspections of Chinese company audits were completed more quickly than expected. Shanghai Composite in mainland China is also up nearly 3% today. And that's despite the fact that Barclays cut its forecast for China's economic growth next year to 3.8%, based partly on expectations of a drop in global demand for Chinese goods. The bank now expects China's exports to drop by 2% to 5% in 2023. That's versus previous expectations for 1% growth in exports. And that's essentially because the firm's US and European economics team forecast recessions next year. Let's now go to Jameel Ahmad in Alexandria. He is the Chief Investment Strategist at Alpari. Thanks for being with us today. Jameel, first of all, China's exports slowing. Are supply chain disruptions still having an impact of some sort on the Chinese economy? Or is this purely based on a US and EU recession forecast?
Yes, there is. How to explain this? If the world economy was a large piece of cake right now, it's not a cake that you would want, but the supply chain issues would be one slice of that cake. The other slice of that cake would still be some of the impacts from COVID that businesses are still facing, the unfortunate events in Ukraine, other geopolitical and political events, and social issues as well, stemming from higher inflation, interest rates, and so on. So we can't just identify one single factor. But you're right to point out that supply chain issues are certainly a factor in this nonetheless.
Right, Jameel, a quick question on this. Analysts were talking about the fact that foreign companies are now seen to have shifted their orders away from China to its Asian neighbors, including Vietnam, Malaysia, but also India. Does it mean that there are now opportunities for other countries to become hubs for labor-intensive goods?
There always has been opportunities. China is still the major manufacturing hub of the world. It accounts for somewhere between 28 to 30% of global manufacturing, which is monumental. It's more than, it's nearly double the United States, which is number 2. At the same point, when you do have some kind of decline and interest towards other countries, and the vibrant nations you've mentioned are certainly potential manufacturing hubs also, you will of course notice that there's been a decline from China because its base is so high. But nonetheless, there's definitely potential for its neighboring countries, for those in the South Asian region, to continue making progress on this front. And in fact, I would expect them to, because they are very vibrant and dynamic economies, and they have a lot of potential.
Interesting, Jameel. We've seen this morning also Asian currencies strengthening against the dollar, but we've also seen a very strong dollar of late. What's your opinion on the trajectory of the dollar going into next year?
I think that the situation has been misinterpreted. I think there's a lot of very pessimistic expectations for the dollar because the dollar's had its best year, since the turn of the century. The Federal Reserve is raising interest rates, at the most aggressive pace in a generation. And there seems to be some sort of conception that the Fed will pause on its path, which means that the dollar should weaken. But the way I see it is that the global economy, all the different headwinds, all the different external factors and risks, it's not in the central bank's control. So I actually think that the Fed could still raise interest rates further, maybe not at such an aggressive pace. And I think that this means that the US dollar can still remain in demand. So I'm more optimistic about the dollar in 2023, even into the end of 2022. Of course, there's not good news for global currencies because no matter where you are in the world, I'm in Egypt today, I've seen in many countries over the past month, we're all talking about the stronger dollar and the weaker currencies are the factors that. But nonetheless, the trajectory is that the dollar will still remain strong, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Jameel Ahmad, many thanks for your analysis.